Welcome to episode 8 of the Unexceptional Moms podcast, where today we're going to talk about cultivating thankfulness. I'm Erin Lorraine.
And I'm Ellen Stumba from ellenstumba.com. So what we're going to be talking about, well, first of all, we're going to talk about the fact that sometimes parenting kids with disabilities, that's kind of hard. And now that Thanksgiving is just around the corner, we're going to talk about ways that we can be thankful for as special needs parents. And we're also going to talk about actual research behind cultivating thankfulness and what that does to us emotionally, physically, and in a whole lot of other areas. And we have a freebie. And the freebie this time, it's like a thankfulness printable graphics. So what that is, because I might come up with a better name tonight, it's right? That's happened before.
It works.
Yes. So what it is, it's just a cute little graphic that you can print and put it around in your house. You can laminate it, put it in a picture frame, whatever you want to do. One of them is a verse that we're going to be talking about. And two of them are just quotes to remind you about thankfulness and cultivating thankfulness. So
now, Ellen, you have been doing a year of thankfulness. Tell us about that.
Yes. So at the end of last year, it was a really hard year for our family, or at least it felt like it was really hard. We came from a really hard year. And there were a lot of losses towards the end of the year. And I think I just felt emotionally spent. And I am sure that a lot of people can relate to that. And I knew that something needed to change. And my husband had asked me to share for the Thanksgiving service at church. So I had to, do a little bit of research on Thanksgiving. And as I was doing research, I really felt convicted that I'm not a very thankful person. And I don't really spend a lot of time being thankful to my family, to friends, and certainly not to God either. So I felt very convicted, and I decided that I was going to make 2016 a year of thankfulness, that despite of what was coming, because life is messy and life is hard. So in the midst of all of that I was going to be thankful. So every day this year, I have very intentionally thought of something that I'm thankful for that day. And I share that on Facebook. So if people go and just Google Ellen Stumble, you're going to find my page. And every night I post my thankfulness. I actually have a journal, and then I write some things in my journal. And it has made this year completely different.
Interesting. Because it is very hard to be thankful in the midst of challenging circumstances because you're so focused on your circumstances.
Yes.
And sometimes it's hard to see the good things under the challenges.
It is. And as you know, my family is probably going through the biggest transition and uncertainty that we have ever gone through. That's been this year. And I look at this year and, Andy and I have talked about it, and we have so much peace about everything. But I really, truly do believe is that when you focus on thankfulness, first of all, you see God moving in your life. So I think that trust and that faith is a direct result of the thankfulness that we have been cultivating. And I have tried to extend that now towards my husband. And I think I talked to you about that one time.
You did.
Then I try, and I'm not very good at doing it with my husband, to be very honest. But I try every day to even say to him something that I'm thankful for. And that's really good in a marriage too. And we're going to be talking about marriage in a couple of weeks here, but
especially if his love language is words of affirmation. See, mine is, and so that speaks to me. Is he doing this too, or just you?
What happens is that when you start doing it, other people that you say it to tend to start then doing it back after a while. So that's the reality, that at first I was just saying it, and it got to the point that sometimes even it became like texting during the day. So I like that. And I do text with my husband, but sometimes it's, don't forget to stop by the grocery store and pick up milk, that kind of thing. But, to go beyond that, like, hey, I just saw that you cleaned out my drawer in my desk. Thank you. You know, I'm very thankful for that. So yeah, it is. It makes a huge difference.
Very
So
cool.
if anything, if people walk out of here saying, well, I can't be thankful every day, but I can be thankful for my husband. I mean, you can do it with your children. I wonder, for those that have teenagers, and you have 2 teenagers, like what if every day you told them something that you're thankful for?
Right.
I mean,
Interesting. I'll have to
Yes.
think about this. We're nearing 2017, so it might be something to consider.
I thought I was going to do it for 1 year, but I think this is going to be something that it needs to be a lifestyle. And, you know, I've developed the habit now.
It is a habit.
I've been doing it for 300 and
something days.
Something days. Yes, I know the 300. I can't remember right now on top of my head. So besides that, because we know life is messy, and like I said, this has actually been a challenging year for our family. It's been a challenging year for your family.
Every year's challenging for our family.
Right? When we parent kids with disabilities, sometimes there's just not an easy year.
Oh, yeah.
But there are things that we can be thankful for. So I just wrote a blog post about it, and we're going to talk about some of those things because it's kind of nice when you can talk a little bit more about it. So the first thing that I had is that I'm thankful that disability is not the green-eyed monster that I thought it was. And Erin, unlike you, because you've always kind of had a heart for people with disabilities, I didn't. And that's the very truth, because I was very ignorant, and I was taught to look the other way, don't stare. And there was a lot of fear for me surrounding disability. So when my daughter was born with Down syndrome, I thought this was going to be really bad.
And I use this comparison so much, but when I was growing up, my mom was a physical therapy assistant in a nursing home. So I was always around all kinds of different people. And I've always been very, very comfortable around people with disabilities. Started working with a girl with a disability when I was very young. Her mom worked during the day or at night, so she slept during the day. And I would stay at home with her daughter who had cerebral palsy. And then I did volunteer work in junior high with kids with special needs. My first job was with kids with special needs. So that was just my life. My degree is in special education. So yes, for me, that was not, it was my normal. However, comparison is mental illness. Because mental illness to me was a very scary thing. The only story I knew about someone that was mentally ill that I knew was the brother of a family friend who had schizophrenia and stabbed his parents to death. And so that's all I knew. And so for my daughter to be diagnosed with a mental illness, talk about a green-eyed monster. I mean, it was terrifying to me. It's not a green-eyed monster. She's still the same kid. You know, it's challenging, incredibly challenging, but it's education, but that is something to be very thankful for. I've learned so much.
And I think it's because we move through the stages of disability attitude once we have to live it, that we can't stay in ignorance because we have to learn, and we can't wallow in pity because we've got to move on. To the next stages of disability. So the other thing that we can be thankful for, or at least I'm thankful for, is that my priorities and what I value in life has changed.
Yes.
And I don't know any special needs parent that would not say that that's something that they're thankful for.
And so I would expand that to say that I think that applies to my other children too, my typical children.
That they have done that for you.
No, well, of course, but no, that they have felt the same way from having siblings with special.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. And I would say that my one typical daughter is as well. And we really live in a culture that values intellect and IQ so highly. And now I come to realize that at the end of our lives, we're not going to wish that we had scored higher in our IQ test. You know, those things don't really matter. And I think that's where priorities come in, because what really matters in life? What is really important? And that's something that our kids bring along and we can be thankful for.
Yes.
What about being thankful for the small milestones?
Yes. I love the little milestones. They're so fun.
They are. And some milestones that some other people don't recognize, but we do.
Right. Right. And sometimes the milestones are things that in a typical child you might not necessarily want. But in a child with special needs, like having sass like a child that's typical for their age, which is where we are right now. Except maybe it's not quite typical for her age, because I say now she's like 9 years old physically, right? And I don't know, maybe 5-ish developmentally, and 18 in her little attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we feel too. Is that right? Yes. And because we see those, I feel like we celebrate more. So that's something that I'm thankful for too, that I feel like our kids have brought in more celebration into our life. Because any little thing that they accomplish, that they get done, it's a big deal. And we recognize how hard our kids have worked for that, and how hard we have sometimes even worked for that as well. Because I think about reading, you know, and we're really working on reading with my daughter with Down syndrome right now. Well, it takes a lot of time from me or from Andy to really work with her, something that we didn't have to spend that much time with the other two sisters.
Right.
But with her, she has to try especially hard. So it's the small milestones and the big celebration.
Yes.
What about being thankful for the tears? What do you think about that, Erin?
Well, when I think about that, I think that the tears, and Lord knows there have been many of them, they have made me a more empathetic person, and they have given me a platform to step into people's lives and minister to them in ways that I couldn't have before.
I would say absolutely. And I think in some way they have humbled me.
Sure.
You know, that sometimes and probably still sometimes I feel like I've got a grip on something and that I really understand it, or I really know what to do, and something happens and I am at a loss. And it's not always a bad thing to be humbled, especially if there's some pride issues in there.
Right.
But it is true that because of the tears, we can connect with people in a much deeper way. And we have talked about this, and we talked about this when we talked about faith, that in a way our dependency in God increases, and the way that we know God changes as well. And that oftentimes comes through the tears.
Yes, it does.
There's a song, I want to say her name is Laura Story.
That is.
Do you know what I'm talking about? What if
raindrops?
Yes. What if your blessings come through raindrops? What if your healing comes through tears? What if 1,000 sleepless nights is what it takes to know you're near?
Do you know she has a memoir out?
No.
It's good. It's good. I just listened to it, an audiobook, I don't know, maybe a month ago.
Oh, see, there's a tip. I can write down my tip. So what about thankful for the joy? We have a lot of joy.
Yes. I mean, that's an obvious one, but yes.
It is kind of an obvious one.
Yeah.
And what about being thankful for unconditional love? Because a lot of times we end up talking about unconditional love.
Unconditional love, yes. And that is something that's talked about in our house a lot, because I have a child who's been very, very abusive to us. And so we always say, I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. In fact, she will do something, and then afterwards she will go, you love me no matter what. She knows that. And I think loving a child that didn't come from your body can be different sometimes. So, but it's beautiful, and I'm thankful for it.
Yes. You know, for me, because it's part of that as well, the unconditional love. When my oldest daughter was born, I just loved her and adored her. And I knew the moment she was born, there was nothing that child could do that would ever make me stop loving her. But then Nicole was born with Down syndrome, and all of a sudden I recognized, oh, here's a baby that's not necessarily going to meet what I had as my expectations. And I don't feel as loving and as caring as I did with my first child. And obviously that had to do with my ignorance and disability and not understanding things. But I think more than anything, it made me challenge myself. Did I really love my first daughter unconditionally, or because she seemed to meet every single expectation I had, which were few as a baby, but she met those expectations, then it was easy to love.
Right.
You know, that there was nothing challenging that unconditional love. But then it ties to what you're saying. What about a child who is difficult to love? And of course, we don't talk a lot about it, but
we don't talk a lot about it.
Challenging situations, and there are challenging behaviors. And both you and I have adopted, you know, some of our kids. And when you have reactive attachment disorder and trauma, and when you have a child that's pushing you away all the time, well, that can be very challenging as well. So what is unconditional love?
Well, I'll tell you what, it teaches you a whole different definition of the word love, right? I mean, warm and fuzzy goes out the window.
Yeah.
Easy to love people who are easy to love. So this is a deeper, richer love that comes through a lot of pain sometimes. But again, in the end, I'm very thankful that I love so differently now.
And I think so many of us would agree with that. So that's what I have, Erin, to put you on the spot. Anything that you would add about
thankfulness wise?
Yeah.
You did put me on the spot. No. Did a great job, Ellie.
Because you're going to think about something else. Okay. So the other thing that I said that it would be really nice to talk about is the fact that actually there's research that says and that proves that thankfulness is so great. Because I mean, what I want to do is to encourage and challenge everybody to either make this November a time of true thankfulness, or to actually consider doing or making 2017 their year of thankfulness, where they're cultivating thankfulness. So here is a quote by Melanie Greenberg. She says, "Gratitude is an attitude and way of living that has been shown to have many benefits in terms of health, happiness, satisfaction with life, and the way we relate to others." And that was the end of the quote. I love it because I want benefits for my health and my happiness and my satisfaction with life and the way that I relate to others, right? We all do. But she continues and she says, it goes hand in hand with mindfulness in its focus on the present and appreciation for what we have now rather than wanting more and more. I'm someone who can really focus on the future. But I like that. When we're thankful, we have to focus on the now. Feeling and expressing gratitude turns our mental focus to the positive, which compensates for our brain's natural tendency to focus on the threats, worries, and negative aspects of life. As such, gratitude creates positive emotions like joy, love, and contentment, which research shows can undo the grip of negative emotions like anxiety. And I'm an anxiety girl right here. Fostering gratitude can also broaden your thinking and create positive cycles of thinking and behaving in healthy, positive ways. And don't we all need to create those pathways of thinking and behaving in healthy and positive ways? So there's a lot of research, and I'm actually going to link to that on the post. And if you go ellenstumba.com/episode 8, and that's the number 8, you're going to find that there as well. But that's the reality of thankfulness. And
I love it.
And I remember reading one time the difference between gratitude and thankfulness. And I think there's a reason why the word thankfulness stuck to me. And I wish that I had researched that before I came. So I'm going to add that at the bottom of the post. But I think gratitude it's more like, oh, how nice. You know, that's so nice. And of course you're grateful and you appreciate it. But thankfulness is it's almost like a humbling of saying, I could not have made it without this. You know, it goes beyond the gratitude. Which is what, we talk about Thanksgiving. We don't talk about gratefulness, right? It's the day of Thanksgiving. It's really, it's really kind of counting your blessings. I think it boils down to that. Thanksgiving is actually counting your blessings. gratitude is just saying thank you for those things. So
yes.
I really do see in my life what a difference Thanksgiving has made.
I really need to consider that for 2017. I really like it.
It is great. And like I said before, expanding that to spouses, expanding that to teenagers. And, and I say teenagers because I keep thinking that they appreciate it more, but I bet my girls would all really appreciate it as well.
And let's just even take that further, because when I go to a restaurant, I am truly thankful, or I have gratitude for every little thing the waitress does. She's serving me. And I tell them that all the time. And so that is also a habit of constantly thanking the people that you come in contact with every day, who probably get ignored a lot, or people expect them to do things for them because it's their job. But we can be thankful to them too. And it just spreads joy.
It does. It really does. And I've been doing one thing, for thankfulness, and I teach an online course called Living Intentionally, and I'm actually going to launch a second period coming up actually right after Thanksgiving. And one of the things that we talk about, as you know, Erin, in the group, is that every night I try to ask people, what is something that you're thankful for? And we did a video chat tonight, and one of the moms said, oh, I thought you said 10 things. To every night go through my day and find 10 things that I'm thankful for. And I thought, I feel challenged, because I bet we could all come up with 10 things. And if we can't, then maybe we need to kind of dig deeper, some of the simple things.
So is that what you're going to do in 2017?
Maybe, but I'm not going to post them all on Facebook anymore. I think I'm going to stick with my journal. Maybe not 10, but I think thinking more about it. Yeah. And to be honest, I feel like I'm so much more aware of what God is doing in our lives and in our family, and the ways that he provides and the ways that he shows up, because I'm more aware about the good that comes into my life.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And like I said, this has not been an easy year for our family whatsoever. And somehow it's probably the year that I've had the most joy and the most enthusiasm about life. And the year when bad things happen or come to us, I don't feel like I fall into this deep, dark hole, because the light is always right there ahead. And that does make a huge difference.
Very cool. So speaking of Thanksgiving, the holiday, what is your family doing this year?
We are going to my sister's house because she just had a baby.
Yes.
I think we should tell people that there was one year that Erin's family and my family, we spent Thanksgiving together, and we had such a great time, and we said, we are going to make this a tradition. And the tradition lasted that 1 year.
Yeah. It was fun though. I found some of those pictures the other day. Our kids were little.
They were really little. And you guys, your tradition, you don't even make Thanksgiving dinner anymore.
No, we don't. We started a tradition, and we sort of started this after Anya came home, because she was so overstimulated by a lot of people, and we just needed to keep things low key. So we just had we went to Cracker Barrel, which this year we're going to try, I can't think of the name of the restaurant now. We're going to try something different and order a whole Thanksgiving dinner. And it was so fun that we've kind of made that a tradition. And then we celebrate like a different day with other people, but that day is just for us. I think my mom's going to come this year,
So there you go. For any special needs families that are feeling so overwhelmed, go out to eat and order the Thanksgiving dinner.
And I would even say, depending on your kid, going out to eat was too much, right? I mean, even to haul my whole family together and be in a waiting room with both girls, knowing that it would probably be busy. But I'm not kidding you, Cracker Barrel, you drive around to the back, you order it in advance, of course, you tell them your name and they bring you out your whole Thanksgiving dinner. And it was so good and it was so relaxing and we just had such a fun time together. So yeah, I highly recommend that. Holidays are hard.
They are hard.
Lots of overstimulation, lots of new places, lots of different people, different food, different environments, and they're just challenging to the point that sometimes I don't even enjoy them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So to have this holiday that we can just stay home and I don't have to cook. I despise cooking. I don't have to cook. I can just enjoy my family. It's wonderful.
And that can be done for Christmas as well.
Absolutely.
Anytime. So because you're bringing that up and because we are getting close to the holidays, our next episode is going to be all about...
We are doing a Christmas gift list.
Gift list, yes. Because we know how hard it is to buy for some of our kids who have special needs. So
yes,
we have been gathering great ideas, things that we have done in the past that work for our kids, things that we have seen. I think we recognize Erin finds the fun things and I find lots of
educational things.
And because, I mean, quite honestly, Nicole just wants Barbie. So if she gets a Barbie, she's happy.
Yeah.
Everything else, she just doesn't like anything else. And I don't want her to get 5 new Barbies.
And I have girls who don't play. You can buy all the toys in the world and no one will probably ever touch them or interact with them. And that's incredibly challenging. After 5 years in an orphanage where you didn't play, you know, it's a learned thing and they're much better now than they used to be, but it's hard to come up with Christmas ideas. Mm-hmm. So I'm gathering them.
Yeah. So we're going to have that. So you can imagine that our freebie is going to be a big list. A PDF with a long list with a link directly for people to go and find those. And the reason we're doing that before is because a lot of people like to go shopping on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, which is why that's going to be the next podcast. So today, we talked about Thanksgiving. We talked about different things that we can be thankful for. We talked about that there's actual research that says if we are thankful, just life is better. And I can say from my experience it is. So the challenge is for people who are listening to cultivate thankfulness, to make maybe 2017 a year of thankfulness, or just to choose November, December, whatever time it is, to make that cultivate thankfulness. And I think we would like to know, right, Erin? So if you decide that you're going to do this and cultivate thankfulness, let us know. Again, the freebie, it is 3 printables that you can just print them out, put them on your wall to remind you to be thankful. Mm-hmm. And I said one of them was a verse that we were going to talk about, and I didn't. So here it is. Before we go, the verse is, it is Psalm 34:8, and it says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." And I've mentioned this one before as well, because usually we do not take refuge when the sun is shining. Right. If you run to take refuge, it's because the storm is coming. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that the verse says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good." And I think in the storms of life that come at us, because life is messy, when we cultivate thankfulness, that is when we get to taste and see that the Lord is good. Mm-hmm. So that's the verse in there. And there are some other quotes, like, "In the midst of the hard and messy of life, I choose to be thankful." And the third quote says, "I want to see God's goodness and experience his love regardless of my life's circumstances. So I will cultivate thankfulness." So you can print them all out. You can print one out, put it up in your wall to see that. And there's a bright orange button that you will find at the end of the post. ellenstumble.com/episode 8, the number 8. Am I missing anything, Erin?
I think you got it.
So maybe this was a shorter episode today, but
that's okay.
Yes, hopefully you're all at least thinking about, what would thankfulness do to me? How would my life change? How would my outlook in life change? And as you can tell, I'm so passionate about this.
I'm telling you, you've got me motivated.
Well, I think when you experience something and you see how great it is for your life, first of all, it's hard not to share about it and to want to see people do that, which is why I have included that as part of my course, because I want everybody to experience the positive things about thankfulness. So
Excellent.
alrighty. So until next week when we talk about
off to make my Christmas list.
Yeah. So have a good week, guys.
Bye.
Oh, subscribe, please.
Yes.
Wait, and yes, and leave us a review. We need reviews on iTunes.
Give us ideas for podcasts too.
Yes, we love the ideas. Bye.
Bye.